later on, and then we'll finish up with something that you've got.
Okay, buddy. That sounds good. Yeah, I mean, the mainstream has been, you know, forever been promoting the COVID-19 vaccine as the remedy for COVID, and it's been pushing it on the public. And the stats show that the unvaccinated have a very low cancer rate of 0.85%, but the vaccinated have a cancer incidence rate that's significantly higher than the unvaccinated population. Um, uh, for general cancers, I believe it's been estimated to be 1.85% or something. So it's significantly higher than the unvaccinated population. And in addition, there's also autoimmune diseases that are being caused by the mRNA, the COVID mRNA vaccines. And the spike protein is the reason, because the mRNA vaccine programs the cells to produce spike proteins, which end up flooding the bloodstream and going throughout the body. And they keep manufacturing these spike proteins ostensibly because it's supposed to help the immune system defend against the spike proteins on the virus. But the spike proteins themselves have become bioweapons, and essentially they just lodge themselves in healthy tissue of the heart, the lungs, the various organs, including the brain, and it's causing the immune response to have the antibodies going to the site of the spike proteins. And when they're attacking the spike proteins, that area becomes inflamed, whether it's the arterial walls of the arteries where the spike proteins have embedded themselves, which is causing blood clots, or whether it's the spike proteins that have embedded themselves in the healthy tissue of the heart. They go there and they attack the spike proteins, and that area of the heart becomes inflamed, and it's causing myocarditis. And the same problem exists with the lung tissue. And then, indeed, some of them embed themselves in the brain, and the same problem occurs with blood clotting in the brain. And you know that can cause strokes, right? And so this is a disaster. And the mRNA vaccine, which they say is safe, is clearly not safe, because it's causing all these adverse reactions that it's killing people. And what we could alternatively use as a cure is garlic. If you cut garlic and you let it breathe for 20 minutes before you sprinkle it on your food, whatever it is that you're putting the garlic on, it releases this allicin liquid from the garlic, which is extremely helpful from the standpoint of virus infections. And it was recently announced in Thailand medical news In a surprising and potentially game-changing discovery, scientists in Canada have uncovered the fact that allicin, a sulfur-rich compound derived from crushed garlic, can significantly suppress the expression of the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein in human immune cells. This breakthrough adds to the growing list of health benefits attributed to garlic and suggests its possible role as a natural antiviral compound with relevance to COVID-19. Researchers from the Department of Biology and Health Science at Kwantlen Polytechnical University in British Columbia, Canada, conducted the study using human splenic fibroblasts. These immune-related cells were genetically engineered to produce the receptor binding domain of the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein. The experiment introduced the spike gene into the cells along with a fluorescent tag to make protein expression visible under a microscope. This Thailand Medical News report reveals that when the garlic compound allicin was added to the cells, either before or after the genetic modification, there was a dramatic reduction in visible fluorescence, indicating that spike protein production had dropped sharply. Allicin's effects are powerful but safe. Unlike the vaccine, which has been found to be unsafe, even though the claim is that it's been tested and found safe, which is a lie. But then we know our governments lie to us all the time. What makes the findings even more encouraging is that the allicin treatment did not harm the cells. Despite its powerful antiviral effect, the splenic fibroblasts maintain their normal shape, growth patterns, and viability. This is a crucial observation, as many drugs that affect viral mechanisms often damage the host cells in the process. At the tested concentration of 50 micrograms, allicin was shown to be non-toxic, reinforcing its potential as a safe natural compound for therapeutic exploration. The researchers used both pre-treatment and post-treatment approaches, exposing cells to allicin either 30 minutes before or 6 hours after transfection with the spike gene. In both cases, spike protein expression plummeted from a 96% expression rate in untreated cells to just 4 to 7% in allicin-treated cells. Mechanism still unknown, but effects are clear. While the exact mechanism remains unclear, scientists agree that allicin could be interfering at the translation or protein synthesis level, possibly altering how the viral protein is built or promoting its breakdown. Allicin is known to react with sulfur-containing groups and proteins, which might destabilize or prevent the proper folding of the spike protein. This mode of action aligns with other findings showing allicin's capacity to disrupt proteins from bacteria, fungi, and other viruses. Additionally, imaging analysis showed that in untreated cells, the spike protein accumulated near the nucleus, hinting at its active processing within the cellular machinery. However, in allicin-treated cells, this signal was nearly extinguished, proving that allicin blocks the production or accumulation of the spike protein. A natural tool in the COVID-19 fight. These findings come at a time when interest in alternative plant-based antivirals is resurging, especially compounds that can complement conventional drugs without harmful side effects. Allicin has long been recognized for its antibacterial, antifungal, anti-inflammatory, and antioxidant benefits. but its antiviral potential against COVID-19 had not been studied in this context before. Importantly, the study did not involve live SARS-CoV-2 virus, but rather used gene delivery systems and mimic spike protein expression in a safe laboratory setting. However, the results are strong foundational proof that allicin could reduce the levels of viral proteins that may play a role not just in acute infection, but also in long COVID symptoms and other post viral complications. Conclusions and future potential. The research presents compelling early evidence that allicin from garlic can powerfully suppress the spike proteins of SARS-CoV-2 in immune-related human cells without harming the cells themselves. This unique dual feature, efficacy without toxicity, positions allicin as a promising candidate for further exploration in antiviral therapy. Future studies will need to explore whether the same suppression occurs in real viral infections and whether allicin could be adapted into a treatment for acute COVID-19 or long COVID syndromes. Investigating its effects on full-length spike protein and extending the studies to animal models and clinical settings will be crucial steps going forward. Okay, so there you go, Andy. I think what's interesting is, when you think about garlic and all the myths and legends surrounding it, and its role in folklore over the centuries, how you hang garlic and it wards off evil if you hang it from the ceiling in your house, and its role in warding off such evils as vampires and all that. Well, I mean, these viruses and germ threats are parasites,
Well, they may not be vampires, but they're probably these viruses were probably sent by vampires.
yeah, anyway, yeah, you get the idea. And so it does definitely ward off evil because of its impact on disease, and it's been used as a herbal medicine for hundreds of years. Obviously, now scientific clinical studies are showing why it is effective in the case of this one virus threat, because it's able to suppress the spike proteins, and this reduces the virus's ability to infect and infiltrate cells through the spike protein.
Yeah, I'd like to add a little bit.
Sure.
I don't think you've mentioned this because I was waiting for it to come.
Yeah.
It says in the news article, garlic extract, allicin, a possible inhalation therapy. So they're talking about using it with an inhaler or as an inhaled thing. So garlic has been used for millennia for the treatment of a variety of human diseases and metabolical disorders. However, a review of the scientific literature suggests it could also have value as an inhalation therapy. That actually makes sense. I think it makes sense. Yeah, just trying to work out, because garlic's very strong. I can't imagine physically doing that, but I don't know, maybe garlic capsules, and well, that's what we use at the moment. But it'd be good as a stick it in your inhaler and go, try and get rid of your respiratory problem.
Well, presumably in that context, it would also be an antihistamine, relieving congestion in the sinuses and clearing
point to my nose. I know I suffer with that. In fact, maybe I should be using garlic. They give me modern medicine of mometasone furoate. I mean, it sounds like bleach, doesn't it? And you stick that up your, and you're okay. Anyway, a little bit of fun.
Well, we know about Coke nose. Let's just hope you don't get garlic nose.
Anything else you want to add to this little section?
Well, I mean, I think the role that alternative, so-called alternative medicine could play in this battle is being suppressed by the insistence on the mainstream media supporting the COVID vaccine narrative and suppressing all alternatives to that. Um, we know that with the germ game that was held in October 2019, which was planned by the World Health Organization and Bill Gates being a member of the sorry, did I say World Health Organization? I'm sorry, I meant World Economic Forum. And Bill Gates being a member of the World Economic Forum, his foundation, the Bill Gates Foundation, was also a sponsor of this germ game that was held in October 2019. And in that germ game, they determined that the best way to control the narrative is to have the mainstream media flood the airwaves with their version of the narrative so that it would drown out all the alternative voices. And they thought that censorship was not the way to go. They just thought that overkill and inundating the public with their narrative would do the trick.
Yeah, I'm just bringing on screen. He's an English nurse. He was. He's a doctor as well. He didn't
I
practice.
listened to him this morning. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very good.
he didn't practice as being a doctor, but he's got the doctor title. But he was a nurse in the NHS, and Dr. John Campbell in particular. I mean, look at these headlines here: unusual death cluster. And then there's that other good doctor in the background in the middle video. They're all basically on the same page, and the third video says it all really. Increased cancers after mRNA vaccines. I'm yet to pray. Well, no, I'm praying, but I'm yet to get his okay, I'll come on your show. But you know, he's a busy man, and like all busy men, he's probably getting his facts together all the time. So if he can't come on the show, I won't be upset. But he's an excellent source of information.
Yeah, he's a very good researcher, and he's got his stats, and he's clear on explaining them and why they're significant related to the cancer statistics on those who are unvaxxed versus those who have received the COVID vaccine. I was actually paraphrasing some of his comments at the start when I was talking about the negative impact of the vaccines, the COVID vaccines.
Yeah, he's really good. Hope he does come on.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to the next segment, Andy.
Yeah, I just want it's a little bit of repeating myself as always. I just wanted to catch up on a little bit of news. So I think it's healthy to have a little bit of news segment in between when we can.
Sure.
And what it is the news article. I mentioned it last time about Tommy Robson and the Free Speech Festival.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this newspaper says there's 150,000 plus coming, but there was 200,000 plus at his last rally, and it's only going to be bigger, especially after the government recently, Starmer's government. God knows what's going on there, but the deputy prime minister sacked herself, resigned because she didn't pay the correct taxes. She sold a disabled son's house, money to buy a house, and didn't pay the right taxes. And then what Starmer did the next day, he said, bugger it, I'll shuffle my whole government around. And he shuffled the government in such a way that he's put all the bad people in the wrong positions. So it's only going to get worse. So this particular article is saying that police have cancelled all leave in the UK because of Tommy Robinson's Free Speech Festival in London this weekend, the 13th and 14th of September. The potential, well, they say there's a potential for serious disorder. Well, absolutely, there never has been one arrest at any of Tommy Robinson's events. He hires properly trained security personnel. He has people undercover who are not security, but they're undercover people that make sure everybody, behaves. He makes sure that, there's nobody really drinking or been drinking. He makes sure nobody wears face masks to cover their faces up because everything needs to be documented. I mean, it's really a great event. I just wish I could be there because that's the kind of dream I had years ago. Will it cause a political revolution? That is exactly what we're hoping. And we want the government to fold, like Guy Fawkes, and then let's just start again, from day one.
Great.
As if we'd been born again.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that a man was forced to take down the Union Jack in his own garden in his own country, and I just saw red. I just was infuriated by that. It's his national flag, and he's being punished by the police for having his flag flying. I mean, it used to be in the old days that if you flew a foreign flag of any description in Canada or in Britain or in America, it was an offense. It was considered an offense, and you would be forced to take the foreign flag down. I've got one across the street that's a foreign flag flying on the guy's front doorstep, and it's like flying there right above his awning on his front porch. And I'm offended by it. What is he doing for flying a foreign flag in my country? Um, it's not infuriating, but it's annoying. It just shouldn't be allowed. He should be flying the national flag or the provincial flag of Ontario, not some foreign flag. But that's okay. You can do that. That's fine. Probably if I put a Canadian flag out front, I'll get arrested or something. It's just insanity what's going on. Christians being arrested for being Christian. Or criticize white people being criticized for holding hands in public because it's racist for white people to hold hands in public. I mean, the absurdity of all this nonsense is just incredible, Andy, and I'm getting very, very, very tired of it. And I can say I fully support all these protests in the UK. And there was an anthem that was made by a woman, and I listened to it, and I found it very, very inspiring. And it's a pro-British anthem. So yeah.
Yeah, Tommy, and other people, they've made the speech anthem for Saturday, and it's going to be brilliant. They've got Jordan Peterson, it's a Canadian psychologist, speaking at the event. So it's going to be, it's going to be really, really good. Yeah, the flags. Well, what people are now doing, they're ordering flags by their box load. So they're putting them on the cars, they're putting them on the sheds, their houses, their bicycles. They're taking them to work with them. They're making the shirts and the ties into British flags. It's because we can do what we want in our own country. It's not actually going against anyone else's race or religion. If I was in India, as an example, I'd fly the Indian flag because you respect the cultures of the country you live in. That's as simple as that. If you don't want to be British, don't come and live in the UK or anywhere else. If you don't want to be Canadian, American, go and find a little island and call it your own. That's what I think. While I'm on the news section, something else is worrying me a little bit.
What's that?
I mentioned last week that UK was buying in at mass amounts from Poland a lot of these mortuaries, mobile mortuaries. They can stick them in the back of vans and stick them in old sheds or whatever, fridges, the lot. On top of that, Putin is still being silly and Trump's getting really, really cheesed off. But the biggest one, if you want to ring alarm bells, the biggest alarm bell is French hospitals have reported, and it's fact because this is AI overview, French hospitals have reportedly been instructed to prepare for potential major military conflict by March 26. Wonder which one that will be. With a leaked letter from the government indicating that between 10 and 50,000 people, including foreign soldiers, may require medical treatment over a 6-month period from March 26. The directive aims to establish medical transit centres to manage the influx of patients from potential front lines and has prompted warnings to doctors about potential shortages of blood, dressings, etc., etc. The French health minister has acknowledged the letter, describing it as a precautionary measure. But if it's that precautionary, why did they put March 26 in it as a deadline?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely.
Do you think we're going to war imminently? Within the next 6 months?
Well, I hope and pray not, but the signs are certainly pointing to the situation escalating to a World War III scenario.
I think. Well, recently Putin went to China, and basically they didn't, but you could imagine it. The press is saying they're all holding hands. So it's Kim Jong-un from North Korea. There was China President XI, I can't pronounce his name, and then there was Putin. They was all together, overlooking
So
all the military.
Xi Jinping was presiding over it. Okay, I see.
Yeah, so we understand that they were celebrating so many years of being free from the West or whatever, and Trump says it was America that helped them out all them years ago to get their independence. Don't know how true that is, but Putin on his plane on the way back was, sort of gobbing it around the media that, oh, look, I've had a brilliant meeting, all my mates. As soon as he got home, China said, we're not having nothing to do with your war. You you keep your war. We don't want any fight with the West. We're quite happy, thank you. But I think if there was a war, then North Korea would be involved, definitely. They don't like anybody.
Yeah.
But hopefully South Korea will beat them up before anything happens.
Yeah, well, I remember in my last 2 years in Korea, I was associated with a so-called spiritual organization called Jungsando, and their teachings are based on the prophecies and teachings of Gangil-san. And he said that, yes, indeed, there would be a Third World War conflict, and it would begin on the Korean Peninsula at basically the demilitarized zone separating North and South Korea. And he said that Seoul would be turned into a sea of fire. Whoever made the decision to put the national capital of South Korea right next to North Korea on the demilitarized zone, I don't know, but I think it was a bad decision. And Busan, which is in the extreme south of the peninsula, would also be liquidated in a barrage of missile attacks from North Korea. Presumably, a new generation of Rodon missiles would be raining down on South Korea. Anyway, the American military bases are there in South Korea, and they have military personnel there. They will be assisting if there's any incursion by North Korea of any description. But according to Gang Il-sun's prophecy, the American forces will withdraw because of the so-called mysterious disease, and they would return to their homeland after a short period of time. And then the mysterious disease would circle the Korean peninsula for 64 days, and then it would jump to the rest of the world, and there would be mass death in the northern hemisphere.
Haven't we had that already called COVID?
Yeah. Well, yeah. He did say that prior to the appearance of the mysterious disease, there would be a worldwide pandemic that would be like smallpox.
Wow.
Well, COVID isn't exactly like smallpox, but it does fit the bill in terms of a worldwide plague. Anyway, the mysterious disease would, he said, affect more people in the I believe it was in the east. Well, east of Korea, if that is what he's referring to. Sounds like North America to me. But anyway, the prophecies of Gang Il-sun are very disturbing. He speaks of the valleys filling with the corpses of the dead and people being unable to keep their food down because of the stench of death. And people would be walking, reading, sitting, lounging, just going about their daily business, and would just fall over dead because of the mysterious disease. So let's hope it doesn't happen. That's all I can say.
Yeah, wow again. Yeah. I keep saying wow. Amazing though. I've seen some YouTube videos on people doing prophecies, but I don't know. Somehow I think if you put it on a YouTube channel, you're not that authentic. Because they tend to tell you what you know already. rather than what's going to happen next month, next year, or year after.
Right.
They sort of tell you what's already happened. They do go back to.
Andy, one of the links you sent was of a CIA whistleblower, John Stockwell, and he talked about CIA covert operations around the world and claimed that because of these covert operations, the CIA was responsible for killing 6 million people worldwide.
Who knows?
Do you recall that link?
I remember sending something, but I don't have it to hand.
So he spoke about Nicaragua as an example and how the Mosquito Indian population was a bit renegade, and the CIA opportunistically saw this as a good divide and conquer opportunity. So they just pumped all kinds of money into the community, the Mosquito community, and they emerged as a kind of a terrorist organization in that part of the world, and they were on a rampage, raping, killing, stealing, doing all this mayhem, causing all this mayhem in Nicaragua. And their strategy around the world was to support this type of ethnic minority group in various countries to try to destabilize countries that were in the third world because they would be unable to defend themselves against these types of tactics. So they did a lot of this in Africa, and they did quite a bit of it in Asia as well. And we can see that when their tactics reached their apex, they had the war in Vietnam, which killed, I believe, 2 million, and the war in Korea, which they estimate caused 1 million people to lose their lives. And then there were satellite countries around Vietnam during the Vietnam War, like Laos, which also experienced a loss of life. And so when Stockwell and his researchers did a tally on how much death the CIA was responsible for around the world, they came up with the tally of 6 million. But, he talks about the tactics being used of promoting minority groups in other countries to rise up and cause unrest. But he then speaks of his own country, the United States, and says, what if such a tactic were used here in the United States? Well, I think it already has. And was the CIA actually responsible for things like the emergence of Black Lives Matter? I mean, it's not a terrorist organization per se, but there have been, disturbances at different protests in the United States, which were exacerbated because of the presence of BLM. And Antifa, which is supposed to be an anti-fascist organization, couldn't be more fascist. So it seems to be like they're using the communist playbook now, and things have come home to roost from that standpoint, and the same tactics that were used during the Cultural Revolution in China are now being used in the United States, or were at least under the Biden Harris administration. I don't think you can say it's happening right now under the new Trump administration, but we're seeing other problems emerging. So the Hegelian dialectic keeps shifting left to right, left to right, left to right, and it's just creating problem reaction solution dialectics over and over again. Anyway, Andy.
Yeah, I don't think I think the Black Lives Matters are that's very small. It's more what do you call it
Andy, I've
over
lost
here?
your audio.
Oh, have I lost it?
Well,
No, it's still
I
here.
hope you can hear me.
Maybe I'll do that. Does that make any difference?
Andy, I can't hear you.
No. Oh dear. Don't know them.
Sorry, folks. We seem to be having some audio problems. So we better stop here, Andy.
Hang on.